Hello and welcome, beautiful souls, everybody that is here with me today. It is the first day of fall. Bye, summer 2025. Summer is my favorite season and it's gone. So here we are. I'm embracing fall. I love fall as well. I love different things about every season. And today is the equinox. It's been a very, very special weekend. I'm not even going to go into all that, although I could just do my podcast on that. I decided yesterday to write about something that I wanted to speak on once a month. I think I said many moons ago, that I was going to be doing a podcast at least once a month on, and I did not. This is my third podcast on cannabis, and I titled it Weed Wisdom Flowing into Consciousness. So today I needed to get grounded into what I wanted to write about. What better way than peeking into my notes, drafts, and stats. And when I saw this draft that I had started, I hit it like, yes, of course, I'm going to do another podcast on my favorite plant. Weed, as some call her herb, ganja, medicine, as well as cannabis sometimes. This plant has been a prominent part of my life for, I had to count, 36 years now. 36 years. Holy fuck. I sound old as fuck when I say that because you're like thinking, oh, she must be kind of getting up there. And yes, I have not dyed my hair for almost a year, although I'm going to get some color put into it, some highlights, lowlights, whatever they call them. I have an appointment in October, and the last time I went to get anything done, this is a record, was last November. So this is pretty natural, I suppose. Really, I'm not old as fuck. I probably look my age now, although for many years I looked much younger than anybody thought that I was. I think sometimes now, if people learn that I have 4 kids and they're grown kids now, they're like, "Oh wow, you have 4 kids." Because I mean, having 4 kids is a lot, right? I too, yes, was a teen stoner, and I loved reggae vibes, GD shows, raves, Cali vibes. Okay, like yeah, growing up in NorCal was no joke. Then my second life began at age 21. I became a mother again and again and again until I had 4 children at age 34. Many women now these days start having kids in their mid 30s, and I think that's great. Actually, I tell my girls, I say, if you can wait until your mid 30s or even, late 30s, do it, because as long as you're healthy, if you have a teenager in your 50s, that's fine. I mean, I have a teenager right now, right? Because I had my last one at age 34. Like, I think from my experience and from what I've seen in the world, because the world is ever changing, that if you're going to have a child, if you want to bring a child into this world, that you might as well wait as long as possible and get all the things done that you want to do. If you want to travel, great, travel some. If you want to go to school, learn your passions, get settled, get grounded in what you want to bring into the world, even start practicing that. Do things in your 20s into your 30s, and then you can have children later on. I'm not saying there's any perfect way to do it. I just think that for myself, if I would have waited, my life would be completely different. I don't wish that I didn't have my kids because I love my kids, but it did set me back in many ways where now here I am in my 50s, recreating myself. I know what I'm passionate about. At least I'm not like, I don't know what I want to do. I know the things that I want to do. I just feel like it's harder the older that you are, trying to like catch up with technology and just everything that's been going on when you've been being a mom. It is what it is. But so what was I doing back then when I was, 34 and had 4 kids? Well, of course, I was still an advocate of the Queen of Herbs. Never stopped, not in my cards. It's just not. At age 34 was the beginning of my farmer days, my ganja cannabis farming days. Growing pounds of this plant medicine for far and near in the heat of the boom. Days I will never forget, and I guess proud to be a part of. Though not sure how I feel about the proud word, LOL. Sometimes that proud word, you're like, I don't know. It just, yeah, I probably could have used a different word there because I just don't really love that word. But I guess appreciate that I was part of those days, especially in California. And it's something that I'm grateful, right? I appreciate that I was part of it. I'm grateful. Grateful is a better word. I guess I could use that instead of proud. As a mother, growing herbalist, and conscious advocate of the cannabis plant, I quickly became an advocate for hemp as well. But of course, right? In 2007 was the beginning of another child that I felt like was born. And I didn't realize this until after selling Being Green, Conscious Choices for All. It was my store, my green living store that I started in 2007 when I was pregnant with my youngest. And I was told by a good friend of mine, because I was like feeling like I had lost something, like I had lost part of me. And this man that was a friend of mine, he said, it was like you birthed another child. You had like this business for years and you gave, everything that I could into it while also raising my children. But it was the first time I had a business of my own that was that expansive, that was so great and felt so good, right? In my mid 30s into I was age 40 when I started selling the business. And it was quite an accomplishment. And it really felt like when I gave up that business that I was losing part of me, that it was a loss of like a relationship. And this child was different, as she was a green living store that needed constant attention, but gave back to the community at large. And this shop is still giving back to this day and has supported thousands over the past 18 years that want to wear conscious clothing, including sustainably made hemp. So I threw that in there because hemp is, of course, part of the same plant species as cannabis, although hemp does not have the same cannabinoids that makes you high. So I'll just leave that at that. And when the boom was fading out as cannabis became legalized, I was still not one of the fortunate property owners. Decision was made to sell my shop, stepping into something new and unknown. I'll just go ahead and say that the reason I sold my shop, because I did really love it. It was great and I miss a lot of parts about it. But my kids have always been the most important thing to me. And when I sold Being Green, the main reason, I had 3 reasons, I believe. It was a little bit of a burnout situation because I was doing everything myself. I couldn't hire a lot of help. I did have a couple people that helped me work the store when I couldn't, but we were open 7 days a week and I did all the ordering and, had to deal with all the problems. And, I was managing, I managed everything and did the accounting and all that. So it was a lot considering I had 4 children as well, right? And I could see that my youngest she was 5 at the time, was not getting, when I made the decision, she was 5, or was she 6? She was actually 6 when I sold Being Green, I believe. But I think when I started making the decision that I needed to sell the store was when she was 5. I realized that she was raising herself too much. She needed her mom around. I couldn't have her at the store. I did like the first year, but when she started running around, being a toddler and just getting into everything, there were too many things for her to get into. and it was too much of a distraction. And so I couldn't have her there with me all the time. It wasn't like having a dog, which I did have my dog at the store sometimes, but so I had made the decision, I needed to be with my child more and I couldn't hire the help. I just, wasn't running it in a way that I had enough to back up to hire help to be there like half the time. So that was the situation. And that was the main reason that I decided to sell the shop. It's still running. The woman that bought it from me was one of my staff members. And she bought it and is still running it to this day. So what wasn't lost was my love for Mary Jane. She has always been by my side. I have not been the addictive type, thus have great respect for her as medicine, never abusing, always using when in need. Even had to be reminded at times that I needed her when I was lost. Yes, that was true and helped bring me joy, give me insight, and lead me into my next decision and so much more as medicine. Now, every year since I've left the larger farms that I was involved in, I've had various mini gardens throughout my homes on rooftops, decks, and this one is in my neighbor's yard. I took a picture that's in my Substack blog that you can read. I will link it in the show notes. And if there is a way to grow, I will happily grow. I have grown my own medicine now for 17 years. I think maybe there was 1 or 2 years when I was not able to. So this image is of a plant who was moved 3 times midlife to be saved. I've never been one to buy weed or have had to. Another blessing I'm very grateful for. Untouched jars that I get to find sometimes in the midst of my moving around and sometimes have to just compost. Grateful again. Though food waste, including herb waste, makes me cringe. I can't stand wasting food. I think it was, how I was raised and how we had to eat all of our food, on our plates. And, just, it was like a bad thing, we really do need to be conscious of our food waste. And so even with herbs, I tend to keep them longer than I should. They don't necessarily go bad if you, harvest them right, if you cure them right, if you keep them, protected. Herbs can last for many years. What happens is that with cannabis specifically, and some of this I don't put in the blog, so that's why the podcast is extra special, is that the cannabinoids change over time. And as long as the herb was preserved correctly, harvested correctly, cured and preserved sustainably, then you can use the herb for actually many years, just like many herbs. It's just that the quality of the freshness, of course, goes down. So then maybe it's not as potent as it was in the first year, but the cannabinoids actually change. It's like it keeps, it's like the curing process keeps going on. And, even in the jar, it's like changing over, several years. I've had, different strains that I've kept and then found. And I'm like, wow, this, like, you open it and you're like, oh my God, this smells like it did like the first year. And it still smells like blueberry, or, like you can still smell the freshness of it. And that's when you know that it's still good too. Obviously, if it just doesn't smell like anything and it doesn't look so great, toss it. But that's what's, really awesome. There's so many people that think, oh, like, I just want to smoke fresh herb, or I just need like the freshest of the fresh or whatever. And yeah, that's great if you can do that, if that's what you want to do. But really, the medicine can get better in some ways. And I'm not going to go into all that on this podcast, but it can change and the cannabinoids change, and it can, it's like wine. If you think about wine and how it's kept, right? And if it's kept right in the bottle, it can last for years. And it's preserved and it's actually better years later. Cannabis is actually similar. It's how you cure it, how you preserve it, and it can actually be really good years later. So I know some of you know this, but some of you don't, and I hope that you just learned something from that. Cannabis is medicine, and I have used her and barely abused her, deeply respect her, highly advocate for her, and I always will. I know this holding her sacred. Sacred. She is here for a reason, y'all. And back to 2020, we all know the year. As I was taking a leave from my corporate job to be with family during what I initially thought was the apocalypse. Yes, I thought, what the fuck is happening? Okay, this is it, guys. This is it. I was in the natural health field and people were starting to freak out. And, there was definitely more illness on the rise. And people were, hearing all these things on the internet and starting to panic and being like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. I just want to go be with my family. So that wasn't the reason. Actually, I was already kind of like 1 foot out the door because I had given notice at my job because my daughter's dad was very sick and I needed to be there for her more. So the timing was just perfect because I had already given notice. I was a manager at a place, I'm not going to mention here, in the holistic wellness field. And they were already interviewing to replace me. And, or maybe we hadn't, even interviewed anybody yet, but my job had been posted. And then at the same time, the pandemic started ramping up. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. But I did not, needless to say, stay till the end of that time. I had given 60 days notice, and 6 weeks in, when the pandemic was wrapping up, I was like, I'm needing to go. I need to go be with my family, right? I need to go be with my family. So I left there early. And during that time, when I was on leave and spending time at home with family, I was starting my business. I was starting to create what I have created now, although I've gone back to work a couple times corporate and, I've had to make money elsewhere, which is like distracted me from this work. But I came across Dr. Mary Clifton, MD, who intersected my feed to inspire me with her offering to become a certified cannabinoid coach. And okay, well, of course, why the fuck not? So I jumped on board, completing her 6-month course with her with more confidence to help others with cannabis awareness. And one of my earlier podcasts was on the biology of cannabis, which I will link in the show notes. It's linked in my Substack. And this is a great reference for anyone wanting to know more about this miraculous plant and just how it's connected to the body, how, it has all these different parts and how it's really meant for us to use. I believe anybody can use this plant if it's used correctly. So a few months later, I wrote another canna blog on awareness, here to learn more. My desire was to write once a month on my love of this amazing herb. And well, like I said, that didn't happen, but it's all good. I still love to coach anyone out there that is wary of the medicine, had an unpleasant experience at one time, feels like they can't use it, needs a sustainable choice or an alternative to a harmful drug that they might be using. So if you're that person, please reach out to me and we can have a conversation and see, if you feel like you want to try the medicine again. I'm definitely a good person to talk to you about it. I have a lot of experience and we can have an open conversation about it. So in case you're new here and you don't know how many times I've moved over 31, my cat has also moved with me since she was born 9 years ago. So she's probably moved over 10 times now, and I'll call her our family cat because she's not just mine. She really belongs to my daughters who love her very much. And over the past several moves, she has been dosed with CBD oil in transit. And it works like a charm every time in moments of stress. No one needs to endure chronic stress ever. Just say, no way. A pro tip is that cannabis with high THC, meaning that if the plant has been tested, if you buy it at a dispensary and it tells you the percentage of THC in the plant is over 21%, I would say we used to say 19% many years ago. And now I'm personally saying 21% because you can get, THC probably over 30% now, which is, I think, absolutely ridiculous. Or over 3 milligrams of whatever you're taking. So if it's like 3 milligrams for, the dose of, say it's a gummy, there's nothing wrong with taking like a half a dose or breaking something up so that you're not getting too much. But for me, I feel like anything over 3 milligrams could be a high dose for somebody. Some people can take 10 milligrams. Some people can take 20 milligrams. Like for myself, I feel like it kind of goes by your tolerance. Your body weight is somewhere you might want to start with. But like I said, over 21% or over 3 milligrams could be considered high THC for someone. And that should be taken with quality protein for a balanced state, especially if you're hypoglycemic, if you have low blood sugar already, because it can mess with your blood sugar. THC at a high amount, if you haven't eaten and you're more prone to blood sugar issues, it can mess with that. So this is medicine and there will be slight side effects, but way safer than many drugs. And as the title states, wisdom through conscious, insightful messages comes through the plant to the recipient. Another herb giving us what we need when we need if we allow acceptance. Flow happens when we open up without fear and listen, right? I know when I use this herb, I get insights, and like I said, I'm not addicted. I don't consume the herb constantly. I have great respect for her. But when I do, I'm like, kind of like, why didn't I do this before? Because now I'm getting insights. It's like a spiritual message is coming through. It's like you're tapped in. When you're tapped in with plant medicine, you're tapped into universal consciousness more, I believe. You're tapped into the earth and to what you're supposed to know. It's like being in nature. It's just different. And as I sit here, house sitting at my dear friends who are in Bali, I give thanks for all the lives that I have met that have deeply appreciated this plant medicine. So honoring her seeds of plenty and honoring this harvest season that we are amongst. This is a time of great harvest, and for cannabis as well, for all the outdoor growers. I give thanks to you, especially the ones that are not overdoing it and that are not polluting the earth and that are being sustainable in their practices and their methods of growing the plant. Thank you so much. I thank you for being here. I hope that you will join me again next week and have a beautiful entering into this new season. Let's take a deep breath together one more time. May you be well.